Hello, welcome back to Living Resonance. I'm Anifa, and today we're exploring the cosmic current of the gene keys and the lunar cycle so you can cultivate your voice, live your genius, and weave your legacy in harmony with the current frequencies. So, we are currently in the lunar phase of the new moon in Libra, which is gene key 50.3, which is actually pretty significant this time around because, at least in my part of the world, there's a grand air trine happening with the new moon and Uranus and Pluto. And because of that, this is really strong change energy. Anybody who knows line 3 of human design or Gene Keys knows that it is change energy. It is changing things up, doing things differently. And with that combination of Uranus with spontaneous change and Pluto with revolutionary change, it's got a lot of change possibility happening. So if you need a boost or a refresh or a restart or a reset or an amplification of where you want to be in the next quite a bit. I think this is not an eclipse, so we're not looking at 6 months really. And yet, what we're looking at is the really large planets having energies that are being revisited next year around February and in July. And so that's Saturn, which is doing a whole nother thing with the uh, uh, every now and again there's a grand water trine because of Saturn and Jupiter. And this one, the air trine that has been popping up a little bit since I think August. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But just so you know, the really strong energies for really big things to be manifested. And as you know, we are in fast manifestation energy, and it will only get faster next year. So if you have a mind to go ahead and set some intentions around this new moon, around how you are being in the way that you show up for your family and the work, the projects, the legacies that you're creating within your life. And we'll talk more about that as we go. So, in this energy, we're experiencing the themes of the shadow of corruption, the gift of equilibrium, and the city of harmony. And the genius is harmony, how we work together in our awakening as a humanity and as individuals. So it really is speaking to this. This is what it means to be in the Aquarian age. And we've been getting that message for a while, and especially this year. Especially this year. It's all been attunement in that direction. So, as you know, here we like to talk about the human design through Karen Curry Parker's quantum human design work. And in her work, the gate 50 is nourishment. There's a quote from Karen Curry Parker. This energy in the shadow can bring guilt and fear of failing our responsibility to others. When we work with this energy, we can easily be manipulated by guilt and take on responsibility for things we aren't actually responsible for. So the hard part here is to not be in cooperation, transcend the guilt of unhealthy obligations, and yet still do what you need to do to take care of the things that are in your lane and can better serve yourself and others. So it's really in that way nourishment of or nurturing. It's nurturing is the right word. I'm sorry, I said nourishment. I think nourishment was last month, which I'm going to bring up in a little bit as well, because it is this, again, reclaiming of this understanding of what does it mean to be responsible and what does it mean when we're overdoing responsibility and underdoing it, right? And so we're seeing a glimpse of that again here, better or more defined, even greatly defined, with greater clarity that allows us to help to find the truth of that line for ourselves and who we are and how we're being and how we're serving others, right? So that is that. So optimally, you have the ability to take care of yourself, nurture yourself, and have plenty and extra energy to serve others and even more for whatever, for prosperity's sake, for abundance, for more than enough is the goal. Okay. And the Gene Keys side of this, that shadow 50 corruption, and that we are talking about. Actually, something closer to our minds nowadays is data corruption. AI is showing us what's possible when you can take data and corrupt it. Eventually, it becomes lies. It becomes not something you can wholly stand on, right? So that's part of what we're learning in the technology side, but we also have to know how it's been corrupted within us by what's been passed on to us from others. So we have in the Gene Keys, the chapter starting out being described as lost in transcription. So not translation, but transcription and that repeatedness. So I'm getting a little interference in my microphone or my ear bud. All right, so lost in transcription. So that is the reality of when we're trying to take data and copy it to another, that sometimes the data can get corrupted. In the olden days, this used to be we had a very good visual of this called Xerox, and they would make a copy of a copy of a copy, and eventually you see like dime signs lint on the copy because every time you copy it, it increased the imperfections. So that is the idea of data corruption and a visual scale. And then you can imagine that over copying just ones and twos, zeros and ones, I should probably say zeros and ones and different data across different machines, different networks, right? They've improved on this idea. This is why their PNG can be better than a JPG, if you know what I'm talking about, folks, if you're that much of a nerd on that side of the game. So this is also part of the ring of the Illuminati, which is essentially how we are understanding our own ability to transcend and experience our true selves, which is spirit, as humanity, right? And then the further definition of the shadow section is called, or the title is called The Cosmic Order. Okay. So this is about how do we organize? Do we organize ourselves and our data and our ability to inform and impact each other, right? So there's this a quote that Gene Keys used from Carl Jung, which says, nothing has a stronger influence psychologically on their environment and especially on their children than the unlived life of the parent. And this is very interesting because it has come up in my studio over the years, how we are often sublimating our desires, our dreams, what's nourishing to us, what's nurturing of our energy for the caretaking of the family, often the children. And then later on, what happens is that they don't have a clear idea of what it's like to follow your own desires and your dreams in balance with the care, of others. And so we kind of keep passing on this corruption of what does it what does it actually take to be responsible as a parent and a family member, and what is, too responsible and what's not responsible enough. So again, last month we were talking about this, and when it comes to how do we understand our territories, our first territory being ourself, and then the home, and then the family, or the land, or your community, and it can expand from there, right? But either way, having a proper understanding and relationship as to what is within your control and what you are responsible of, and not overdoing it or underdoing it, or overdoing it out of force and fear, or underdoing it out of force and fear, right? So in the shadow of corruption, this is, let me just, yeah, yeah. So the shadow of corruption is what we've described already from the transcription, right? So I'm not going to go back over that. But the nature, like what does it take? How do we recognize it in the wild is kind of how I think of this. The nature of being um, in this energy. So the way we value our lives or what we do and how we take care of our life and each other and how we pass that value or understanding on to the next generation. And that is the nature of this. It's like how do we pass on what's important, right? What needs to be maintained in order for the all to survive and the highest, prosperity, thriving of the individual. So then nature here is really to be able to do that without corrupting it with old traumas, wounds, experiences from previous generations that were born that create fear cycles, fear patterns, right? And so the fear is that they would not be able to take care of themselves and the family, and that they'll not be able to keep themselves from being victims. And the patterning is framed around hierarchy. So being, a victim of the hierarchy of society. So that is the scariest part of having that experience. So in that, yeah. So that in that, that's kind of the same driver that was happening last month, right? Which is like that inability to be able to take care of the territory, wanting control. The contrada was of control last month. And that wanting to be in control over your territory, whether that be you or the family, as we spoke about earlier. And so in that, not allowing it to take over the truth or the values that you want to uphold within the family and the frames. And so again, not letting an idea of oppression or idea of something being over you and keeping you from being able to sustain yourself and the family to do things that are outside of your values, right? And this actually is to echo that message, staying inside your values. That was about, I would say, 3 months ago. We had a key that was specifically about that. It's not letting the pressure or the fear or the fast changes take you outside of what you know to be valuable about being human, right? So integrity. It's a big theme a couple of times. So it's really a big message of part of our being honorable to ourselves and our highest self is integrity, right? So in that way, this is a fear of not wanting to lose ground, lose territory, right? And really having this ability to to recognize when that's happening. So in the shadow, when this energy, this frequency is repressed, it looks like being overloaded. It's basically is being overwhelmed and submitting to the powers that be, the hierarchy, out of fear of, losing family, losing your place in life, right? And in that way, you overdo it or get overwhelmed trying to protect everybody, keep everybody safe, right? And then when it comes to your own dreams, you compromise them for the role of the social responsibility, whether that be, again, to yourself, to your family, or to the wider society. So what happens is that this is right if you follow human design, this is right in that connection of your sacral energy, basically your engine, where you get your energy from, and into the spleen, which is the instinctive impulse, motivation. So essentially, you lose the ability to have the desire to move, the energy to move, essentially, because it's stalemated because you're not being sourced by your own dreams. Essentially, you've tossed them out the window in order to protect those around you, and then you lose steam and you lose the ability to be able to have the energy, the wherewithal, the creativity to be able to break out of what appears to be a closed system, like a hierarchy, right? So people have gotten in and around these before. There's a reason why, because they were open to the creativity, the innovation, which is the other side, the programming partner, the gift on that side would be going from chaos, the shadow of the three, to the gift of three, which is innovation. So being able to think outside the box so you can break out of this system of hierarchy, right? So on the reactive side, this is if we're reacting against the energy, it looks like being irresponsible. So it's taking advantage of the hierarchy, but we're not taking the responsibility of having that power authority over others and being obsessed only with the gaining and the getting even higher in the hierarchy, right? Whatever that looks like, usually money, right? Is what we have been conditioned to at this point. So this is how do we turn this into genius? How do we get not get stuck into this shadow pattern is what's called equilibrium. So it is creating a clean group aura with a with all hidden agendas on the table. So essentially you're using this understanding that everybody has a reason, right? They have needs, they have desires, and that doesn't change. All humans have needs, desires, and the way they feel that they can fulfill them. And if we are living out of fear, if we're living out of old programs that say you have to do it a certain way, otherwise you won't get what you need, then it can look like corruption, right? But if we are understanding that everybody has needs and desires, and then we just have to be open to hearing and putting them on the table so that we can all be best served, then that we will all have a way of serving in our own way, then it starts to balance itself out and to that equilibrium. Okay, so one of the keys to this, for those who have this in their chart directly or know somebody or are dealing with this energy specifically, is playfulness, creative freedom, feeling like you are able to play, feeling like it can be anything, right? So it's kind of giving us that mirror back of that innovation piece of just let it be anything. Play with it. Play with the possibilities. Live in the dream, right? But not letting it keep you from being responsible as well, right? So that equilibrium is the hope of the new social model in this gift. So it's about being able to create harmony for yourself. And so that nurturing piece is about doing that for yourself and then as extreme as the global level. So just this energy being in play, it can connecting to others, it can impact the world. Okay. And so these are people, like if you're living in this superpower, again, if this is in your chart, they are like cooks. This is a quote. Actually, this is the longest quote I've probably ever read here because it's not a direct quote. I have kind of ellipses between different sections of the chapter, but I feel like all the ideas were important and cohesive within themselves. So that's how I put it in. Okay. So beginning of quote. These people are like cooks who know exactly how to read the needs and requirements of any group and adjust the ingredients accordingly. Ellipsis. These people can create harmony in a group without even thinking about it. Ellipsis. Can they can be applied to larger group social groupings. So the energy itself, right, that they people carry can be applied to larger groupings, businesses, and entire communities. This 50th gene key creates powerful ripples and electromagnetic currents that have the remarkable effect of bringing groups into equilibrium. So this is one of those things, and if you do happen to have a line six here, one of the gifts of line six is cellular. And as you know now, cells are not just cells; they are little amalgamations of energy, right? And so they are in our breath, in our energy. They are floating around the room. So line sixes have this particular quality where they don't actually have to do anything. They can just walk into a room and be in a higher vibration and shift the room. So this is very much along those lines. Even if you're not a line six, this is what this is saying. This quality that allows you to be in harmony is also kind of automatic, right? So it's something good to know, right? It's something good to know because a lot of times they think that in order to maintain order, we have to control, we have to inflict, whether that's in our words or in our actions or in a manipulation, right? And that can be a way of creating hierarchy, even if that's not your intention, right? So the preferred way in this energy and the gift, it actually looks like heterarchy, which means that you're trusting the individual, yourself and other individuals, to be in balance or to take care of their own balance, and then to take responsibility for their gift or your gift within the group. So each individual person is responsive and responsible as their gift is required, right? And the truth is that if they're in the group, then at one point or another, their gift will be required. And our ability to tune into that, to be aware of that, this is the power of this gift, knowing what that takes for a room to be in harmony. And so that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So that's what I have for you this time. It is a little one, but I do have a couple journal questions for you from Karen Curry Parker. If you ever have any questions, just know that you can um, just put them in the comments. Let me know what's going on for you. Because if you're not used to this energy or if it's bothering you, a lot of times it's because that you've gotten this far by maintaining control. But we have such strong energies creating such immense change. Like I said, grand trine air, right? So whew, talk about disruption with Uranus and Pluto, the highest disruptors in the chart, right? So, yeah, you got to learn to move with the energy, to move with the change. This is why I do this work. Okay. I've been doing this for a while and I've been saying this for a while. We cannot keep doing things the old way. We have to know ourselves. We have to know how to follow our own intuition and understanding of our own gifts. If we don't even know what our gifts are, how are we following them and being part of the balance? And that is what's required. That is what's required, especially for our sensitive, amazing, beautiful peoples out there, especially for our spicy, neurodivergent individuals and creative minds out there, especially those. You need to know your gifts and you need to allow yourself to respond as they are needed within every space. You have to figure it out. What does it look like to be in a balanced response in corporate? What does it look like to be in a balanced response out in the government? You got to figure this out. This is the key to a more harmonious shift, right? So again, I've been saying this for a while. You can look back and see how many videos we've done. We usually are in the season of voicing your vision, which I'm not haven't completely let go of. I'm considering doing some panels on, so look out for that. But we for every summit, we've had this conversation. Every summit, and there's been five. Okay, guys. So just so you know, there's plenty, like a lot of that is on the channel. You can find it. Just let me know if you have any questions or if you're having problems bringing it up. All right. Journal questions. You ready? Number one, are you being responsible for something that isn't yours to be responsible for? If so, it's time to let it go. And then the second question is, where do you need to teach people to fish? So we are thanking Karen Curry Parker for these amazing, insightful questions. Y'all, I just found out about this amazing thing. On Gaia, there is now a Gene Key series by Richard Rudd. So I'm going to put the link in the comments. I've created a connection with them. So if you want a little referral, a little free time before you get started, go ahead and use the link in the comments so that you can learn directly from Richard Rudd. And if you ever watched his work on YouTube, you know that he's very much a poet, and it can feel like it's hard to grasp what he's saying. One of the things I've always enjoyed about the Gaia network is that they have amazing writers. They have amazing people that help people to take complex ideas and to share them in a way that people can digest and receive them in a very strong way. And they've done a miraculous job with what they've written up for him on the Gaia network. And there's so much, it has definitely has this essence and it's still beautiful and embracing and lovely of his, beautiful artistic nature. And then in combination, they have the beautiful images and just really great descriptions that help you to move through the work in a clearer way. So if you've ever found Gene Keys to be hard to understand, it's definitely a way to go. I highly recommend it. So really enjoying the series. They haven't fully released it yet, but they're kind of dripping it out for us. So I'll put that link in the comments and let me know if you like it. Let me know if you've already seen it. And I'll talk to you guys on the next one.